Okay, so I want to start today by asking you to check in with a very specific feeling.
Hmm.
It isn't, panic. It isn't desperation. It's much more subtle than that. It's this low grade, constant hum of friction.
Right.
Let's say you are mid career. You've been working for 15, maybe 20 years. You have led teams, managed crises, you have a track record that, frankly, you are proud of. But then, for whatever reason, you decide it is time to look for a new role.
And that is where the hum starts to get loud.
Exactly. You sit down at your computer, you open up your resume file, and suddenly the job market feels, well, alien.
It feels infinitely harder than it did 10 years ago.
It does. You apply for roles, you're perfect for roles you could do in your sleep, and you hear absolutely nothing. It is this baffling sensation of being highly qualified, but somehow invisible.
We call this quiet friction.
Yeah.
And honestly, it is the defining characteristic of the modern job search for experienced professionals. That is what we're really digging into today.
And I think for a lot of people, the immediate assumption is to blame the usual suspects.
Oh, for sure. They think, oh, it's the economy or it's ageism.
Right, or my resume isn't formatted correctly, or I need to use a different font.
Sure. And while those things can be factors, the research we are looking at today suggests something much more structural is going on. It's not just you.
The game itself has changed.
The entire mechanism of how talent is identified has mutated.
So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out why experience, which should be your biggest asset, seems to be working against people right now.
Yeah.
We have a stack of research here covering modern career strategy, hiring algorithms, and cognitive fatigue. And the thesis is fascinating. It basically says we're all trying to solve two completely different problems at the exact same time.
And that is what is causing the burnout. It comes down to the difference between career clarity and application execution.
Two very different things.
Totally. Most of us just mash them together into one big ball of stress, but there are distinct challenges that require distinct tools. So let's unpack this, because I think a lot of us still have this mental model of how a career should look based on how it worked maybe 20 years ago.
We are haunting ourselves with the ghost of the linear career. That is the old model.
What do you mean by that?
In the past, the story was simple. You entered a field, you climbed a ladder, you were a junior analyst, then a senior analyst, then a manager.
Director, VP, and so on. And everyone knew what those words meant. It was a universal language.
Precisely. The titles were consistent across the industry. Your resume told a very straight chronological story. If you showed that resume to an employer in 2005, they knew exactly what you were.
They knew what you cost and where you fit.
It was like reading a map with one single highway.
But looking at the data on modern career paths, that highway is, well, it's gone. It's more like a chaotic intersection in a city without traffic lights.
The highway is dead. The current reality is messy. It's a lattice, not a ladder. Roles overlap now in ways they never did before.
Absolutely.
Responsibilities that used to be in one department, like marketing, are now spread across product, growth, and data science.
Yeah.
And titles? Titles have become incredibly unreliable indicators of what you actually do.
That's so true. You could be a vice president at a fintech startup doing the actual grind work of a manager at a legacy bank, or vice versa.
So you have these people with 20 years of experience, but their path looks like a zigzag. They have pivoted, they have adapted, they've picked up new skills, and that leads to what the sources call signal overload.
Define that for us, because usually we think of signal as a good thing. We want a strong signal.
Right. In information theory, signal is the message you want to send, noise is everything else. The counterintuitive finding here is that having more experience often makes positioning yourself harder.
Which makes no sense on the surface. You would think more experience equals more value, more tools in the toolkit.
It equals more value to the company once you are hired, but it equals more noise to the hiring filter before you get in the door. Think about it. A 20-year career involves adaptations. You learn skills in one industry, applied them in another. You have this rich, complex tapestry of capabilities. But the modern job market, specifically the algorithms and the frantic recruiters, scanning resumes for 6 seconds.
They want neat little boxes.
They want a single keyword.
So you are walking in with a novel, a complex biography, and they are looking for a bumper sticker.
That is a perfect analogy. The sources call this narrative complexity. The richness of your experience makes you harder to categorize. You have transferable skills that are incredibly valuable, say, crisis management or cross-functional leadership.
But they don't fit the exact keyword the job description asked for.
Exactly. So you feel invisible. It is a mismatch between what you have built and how the market interprets value.
So if I'm hearing you right, the reason mid-career professionals feel invisible isn't that they aren't qualified, it's that they are overqualified in a way that creates confusion rather than clarity.
Precisely. A junior person is easy to hire. They fit in a box, junior dev. Done. A senior person is a complex puzzle piece. And if you don't explain exactly how you fit into their specific picture, they won't do the work to figure it out for you.
They just don't have the time.
They don't have the time.
Okay, so that explains the frustration. You are shouting your value in a language they aren't speaking. But let's get to the diagnosis part of our research. You mentioned earlier that we are trying to solve two problems at once. What does that mean practically?
This is the core insight that I think changes everything for job hunters. The exhaustion comes from conflating strategy with tactics.
Okay.
Problem one is career clarity. Figuring out where you actually fit in this new, messy landscape. Problem two is application execution. The tactical act of convincing someone to hire you.
But don't you have to do them together? I mean, I have to figure out who I am while I am writing the cover letter, right?
That's how we've always done it.
Yeah. You see a job, you apply, and you figure it out as you go.
And that is exactly why people burn out. That is the burnout loop. You see a job posting, and you immediately jump to execution. You think, I need to update my resume for this. I need to write a cover letter.
But you haven't actually solved the strategy piece first.
No. You are trying to figure out your professional identity while you are trying to sell it.
It's like trying to build the plane while you are flying it, but also you don't know where you're flying to.
Or throwing spaghetti at the wall, as one source puts it. You end up applying to things that aren't quite right, hoping something sticks.
And because you haven't defined your strategy, traditional advice fails you.
It does. People say, just network more. Well, networking doesn't help if you can't articulate what you do in one sentence.
Or use the job boards.
Right, but job boards reward keywords, not context.
So you end up in this cycle of reactive panic. You're just reacting to postings rather than interpreting your value. You're playing whack-a-mole with job postings.
Exactly. Strategy is interpretive. It is about pausing to understand your opportunity density.
Opportunity density. I like that term, but it sounds a bit academic. What does it mean for someone sitting at their laptop right now?
It is asking, where is the demand high? But more importantly, where is my specific combination of skills rare?
The difference between being one of many versus one of few.
That's it. Can I give an example?
Please, because I think everyone assumes they are one of many these days.
Okay, so let's say you are a project manager. If you just applied to general project manager roles, you're one of many. There are thousands of you. The density of competition is high. Your leverage is low.
Right.
But let's say you have a background in supply chain logistics and you've implemented AI tools in the past.
Okay, so that's a specific mix, a cluster of skills.
Right. If you understand that your cluster of skills is AI-enabled logistics transformation, suddenly you aren't just a project manager. You are a specialist.
And you look for roles in that intersection.
You do. And there, you are one of few. The competition drops, and your value spikes.
Okay, I see. So it's about finding the smaller pond where you are the big fish rather than swimming in the ocean. But this is the hard part, right? Because we are all terrible at seeing our own patterns.
We are way too close to the work.
I can list what I did yesterday, but I can't tell you the overarching theme of my last decade.
Right, we have blinders on. We see the tasks, not the trajectory. And that is where the tools in our source material come in. We are seeing a shift where AI isn't just used to write the text, but to do the thinking.
Ah, okay.
And one of the tools highlighted in the research for this specific phase is ResumeRemixAI.com.
Yeah, I looked at this. It's framed differently than your standard resume builder. It positions itself as a career strategy brief generator.
And that distinction is key. Most AI tools just rewrite your bullet points to sound fancier. They are cosmetic.
Right.
This tool is acting as a research assistant. You upload your history, your resume, your LinkedIn PDF, maybe some project notes, and instead of just formatting it, it analyzes the data points of your career to find those clusters we talked about.
So it looks for patterns you might be missing because you're in the weeds.
Yes. It's telling you, hey, you think you are just a project manager, but actually your experience aligns perfectly with strategic operations or program transformation.
So it identifies hidden opportunities, these adjacent roles you haven't considered.
It gives you a strategy snapshot. It is answering the foundational question, where should I even be aiming before you waste a single calorie writing a cover letter.
That seems huge, just stopping the churn to get the compass heading right. Because if you get the heading wrong, speed doesn't matter.
You're just running faster in the wrong direction. It shifts you from reactive to strategic. Once you know, okay, I am a strategic operator in the fintech space, or whatever the insight is, then and only then do you move to phase 2.
Which is the grind, the actual application process, the part everyone dreads.
The tactical grind. And we have to validate this, even with a clear strategy. The modern application process is deeply, deeply draining. The sources talk about application fatigue and specifically the 10th application syndrome.
Oh, I have felt this. The first cover letter you write is a masterpiece. It's heartfelt. It's specific. The 10th one is just words. You're just changing the company name and praying.
It happens because the words start to feel hollow. You start second-guessing yourself. Am I underselling myself? Am I overselling? And it is the sheer volume of micro-decisions.
So many.
Every single application forces you to decide. Is this too formal? Is this too casual? Did I highlight the right project for this specific company?
It is decision fatigue on steroids, and you're doing it under pressure.
And there's a trap here that the research highlights called tone mismatch. This is a form of invisible rejection that drives people crazy because they never see it coming.
What is tone mismatch?
Let's say you are applying for a high-growth, scrappy startup. You have the skills, but your resume and cover letter sound like they came from a rigid, legacy corporate environment.
Okay.
You were using words like synergy, governance frameworks, and stakeholder alignment.
So you are qualified on paper, but you sound like a culture clash before you even walk in the door.
Precisely. And the recruiter reads it and thinks, this person won't survive here. They are too slow. They are too bureaucratic. You will never know why you didn't get the call.
You'll just think you lacked the skills.
But really, you just lack the dialect.
That is terrifying because you can't really guess the dialect from the outside. Or if you try, you sound like that Steve Buscemi meme. How do you do, fellow kids?
It is very hard to fake. And this is where the second tool, AppliedVoiceAI.com, comes into the conversation as the execution partner.
Right. So if Resume Mix is for the strategy, figuring out what to say, Applied Voice is for the execution, figuring out how to say it to this specific person.
Yes. It takes that strategic clarity you found, and it takes the specific job post you are looking at, and it bridges the gap. It generates the resume and cover letter, but the key feature here is the authentic voice aspect. It adapts the tone.
So it can help me sound like me, but me at a startup versus me at a bank.
It acts as a translator. It preserves your achievements, but frames them in the language of the target company. It reduces the cognitive drain.
You aren't rewriting your life story from scratch every time.
You are refining it. It creates tailored materials, and interestingly, the source mentions it also creates interview-ready briefs.
Oh, that is cool. I want to dig into that because getting the interview is one thing, but performing in it is another. How does the brief help?
Well, anxiety in interviews usually comes from uncertainty. What are they going to ask me?
Right.
The interview-ready brief analyzes the job description and your background to predict the high-probability questions. It essentially gives you a cheat sheet. They are likely to ask about how you handled X situation because this role emphasizes Y skill.
So you walk into the interview not just hoping for the best, but actually anticipating the conversation.
It handles the translation layer, translating your experience into their language, so you don't have to burn out doing it manually 50 times.
It lets you focus on the actual conversation.
Exactly. It allows you to focus on the chemistry rather than struggling to remember your own resume.
I want to pause here because I can hear some people thinking, okay, so we're just letting robots do the job hunting. Isn't that impersonal?
And the sources make a really important distinction about augmented intelligence.
This is critical.
We are not talking about autopilot. We aren't talking about spamming 100 applications a minute with a bot. That is actually the opposite of strategy.
Yeah.
That is just amplifying the noise.
Right, that's just spam.
Yeah.
And nobody likes spam.
Exactly. The concept here is augmented intelligence. Technology handles pattern recognition. It handles market language translation. It handles scale.
And humans.
We handle context. We handle intuition. We handle values-based decisions.
So the AI builds the map, but you drive the car.
Yes. Think about it this way. When you write a resume manually, you spend 90% of your energy on formatting, spelling, and wondering if spearheaded is a good verb. You have 10% left for actual strategy.
That's so true.
These tools flip that ratio. You spend 10% on the mechanics, leaving you 90% of your brain to think about, do I actually want this job? Does this align with my values? Can I connect with this hiring manager?
It is getting back to that human element. If I am not exhausted from writing 40 cover letters, I might actually have the energy to have a genuine conversation during the interview.
And you stop applying to roles that don't fit. That is the biggest energy saver of all. When strategy comes before messaging, the work feels purposeful. You aren't desperate. You are targeted.
You move from a scattershot approach to a sniper approach.
That's it.
I think that is the key shift. It's quality over quantity enabled by technology.
So what does this all mean for someone listening right now who is deep in the quiet friction?
Maybe they've been searching for 3 months and they are feeling that burnout we talked about at the start.
What's the takeaway?
I think the most important takeaway is a reframe. If you are finding this hard, it is not because you have fallen behind. It isn't because you are broken or your skills are obsolete. You haven't lost your edge. The game changed while you were working.
The expectations multiplied, the cognitive load increased, and the systems got more rigid. You are playing a new game with old rules, and that is why it feels like you are losing.
So, practically speaking, if you are feeling that fatigue, the advice is to stop.
Stop. Pause the churn. Separate the process. Stop trying to do it all at once. Treat clarity as step one.
Don't write another cover letter until you know your strategy.
Exactly. Use a tool like ResumeRemixAI.com to get that strategic brief. Figure out your value proposition first.
And then, when you are ready to execute, don't let the blank page kill you.
Right. Use something like AppliedVoiceAI.com to handle the tactical translation so you don't burn out on the micro decisions. It is about protecting your mental energy for the things that actually require your humanity, the relationship building, the decision-making, the actual work.
I love that. There was a quote in the source material that I think sums this up perfectly. It said, "Sometimes the most powerful career move isn't applying faster. It's thinking more clearly than speaking more precisely."
That's it. That is the shift from reactive to strategic.
Well, if you are out there navigating this right now, hopefully this gives you permission to pause, stop the churn, and look at the strategy first. It isn't just you, and there's a better way to do it. Thanks for diving in with us.
Always a pleasure.